stress and the deadlines and the assignments that are already going up, Lord, that we can really take a pause and focus on you, Lord. You are the giver of all good things in life, Lord, and I pray that each of us would just be able to appreciate that right now, Lord, and find rest in your presence. I pray that you would be with us as we discuss, Lord, and with us as we sing and as we meet each other, Lord. Thank you that your presence is here. Amen.
Hi everybody, happy Sunday. My name is Avery, for those of you who are maybe new to us this week. I'm the worship leader here at Wesley, and I have the most amazing band with me, and we're excited to sing some songs and worship together. So let's all stand, and this first song is Peace Be Still. again one more time because it's very important that you all know who these lovely people are. So on vocals and sometimes keys, we've got Gianna. On vocals, Izzy. Give it up for them. And then on keys, Sophia. And bass, James over here. And on drums, we've got Quinn. And my name is Avery. Thanks. So this next one is called Tremble. It's one of our favorites to play, so we're happy to bring it back. And we hope that you all sing with us.
We are an encouraging community, James. It was beautiful. Well, what's up, everyone? Got to see you guys all here. Okay, some people did. How we doing? Wow, this first week was that rough. Y'all getting murdered in the streets, sitting here like zombies. How are we doing? Good. I love it. Hey, at least we're in the AC. You know, we we have to wear masks, which can be annoying for a lot of us, but at least we're inside, getting to be here. And I'm glad that each and every one of you is here. If you got band members, if there's not enough chairs, just grab some from the back. Put them out there. Well, if you don't know who I am, my name is Jess. Some people call me Pastor Jess. You can do whatever you want. I won't be offended. But I am pastor here at United Wesley, and super excited to begin this semester and to go into whatever life has for us on this journey as we dive in. And so today marks the very first sermon for our new sermon series. And that sermon series is called Identity, understanding who we are and who we are called to be or who we are made to become. And my real hope for us is that no matter what Sundays you show up, if you come every single Sunday, if you only make a couple, or maybe this is the only one you show up to because you're like, that pastor guy's crazy, and I don't want to deal with him. Whatever it is, I hope that during this time, you get to start wrestling with one of the most important questions of your life. Who am I? What do I want to be about? What am I passionate about? What are the things that is going to make my life worth living? I don't think I have to tell you all how important that question is. And college, right, is a time where you're supposed to be able to figure that out. You're experimenting, you're figuring out classes, you're changing majors, you're making friend groups, you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? Right? Some of you are just like, hey, I need to make sure I have a job that pays enough money that I can live the type of life I want. And some of you have been saying, like, you know what, I want to do something that makes a difference in the world. I want to leave the world a better place. And some of you are in this room like I was when I was a freshman in college, going, I don't know what I want to do, I just want to make sure it's fun. And that's okay. But I'm here to tell you that God has created each and every one of you with different gifts, experiences, skills, relationships that make you unique, that give you experiences and insights that other people, even other people in this room, don't have. You might see things in different ways, and because of that, there are certain things that you get to be called into that others wouldn't. For instance, most of you probably are not going to be called to be a campus minister or to hang out with college students for the rest of your life, even when you're in your 30s, like I am. But you are going to be called into something beautiful and worthwhile. Whether that's ministering to people who are suffering with homelessness, whether that's just being a great friend to people in need. Maybe you're that person who's called to always be there when others need them. Or maybe you're going to be in charge of some kind of big group or corporation or nonprofit. I don't know what life has in store for you, but I do know that unless you begin wrestling with the question of identity, who am I? What are the things God has given me uniquely, as well as diving into who God has created all of us to be as God's image? You might miss it. Or it might take you a little bit longer to figure it out. So this semester, we're going to be diving into different stories in the Bible, different characters, and we're going to be looking at how they were called by God, what made them unique, what they suffered with, maybe what their struggles were. And maybe some of you will relate to some of these people. People like Moses or David or Mary Magdalene. Maybe you'll start to ask some questions, and maybe the Holy Spirit will meet you here to figure out what it is you want to do and who you want to be. So, if that sounds like something worth your time, and I hope it does, I invite you to pray with me as we dive into today. Heavenly God, Lord, I thank you that you are so good, that you have made each and every one of us unique. God, your word tells us, you know, the very hairs on our head before we were even born. But more importantly, the Bible shows us that you deeply love us, that you want a relationship with each and every one of us, that you've made us in your image, but you have also given us the ability to live and to breathe and to choose. God, I ask that as we step into this place, as we open up these scriptures, give us discernment to figure out the answers to some of these questions. Help us to begin this long journey of understanding who we are and who you're calling us to be. Help us to begin to do the important work of seeing the path you've laid before us. I ask, God, that the words that I say today not just be my own ramblings, Lord, but they actually be something that each and every one of us, including myself, can learn and grow from. That God, as we turn into your word, that you meet us there. We love you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. So today, we're starting off our series with the story of Moses. Most of you, if you've gone to church different times, maybe you've heard of Moses, maybe you haven't, and that's okay. But in the story, in the book of Exodus, we find a main character named Moses. Moses is a man who God ends up calling to go and rescue the people of Israel, or before they were even really this collective body, but the Jewish people out of slavery in Egypt. But Moses' story is rather long, like many characters in the Bible, but yet we don't always get the full view. Actually, we're going to be reading today in Exodus chapter 3, so right at the very beginning of the story. But when this story takes place, Moses is 80 years old, according to the Bible. Now, I don't know about you all, but that's very old. Moses had a crazy upbringing. When he was a child, he was abandoned by his mother because of the law of the land. They were supposed to kill all of the firstborn children. So she tries to save him by putting him in this river, and through this kind of divine miracle, he ends up being picked up by one of the daughters of Pharaoh, and she raises him. Right? And so Moses grows up. He is a Jewish person who was supposed to be killed, but he's living in the household of the person who decided that he was supposed to be killed. He gets trained, he gets all of the education, he goes to the best schools, like many of you at the University of Miami, getting an education, learning how to do everything he needs for life. But Moses has a huge issue. And his issue is, he is torn between the fact that he is a Jewish person who is enslaved in this situation, but he's been given the privilege in the life of someone in Pharaoh's household. He doesn't like this, and he's trying to figure out what does that mean for him? Who is he? And it gets to the point where at one point, he ends up going and killing an Egyptian who is abusing one of the Hebrew people. And because of that, he goes on the run. And so Moses leaves Egypt, and he flees into the wilderness. And he lives there for 40 years, just raising sheep, cattle, completely abandoning all that his life used to be. And it's that time period, 40 years later, where our story picks up, where Moses is walking around on the mountain, and he sees a rather strange sight. Actually, he sees a bush that is on fire, but it is not being burnt up. Now, I've told you this if you were here last year, often us as Christian people, or people who go to church, we read some ridiculous things in the Bible, and you're just like, yeah, that's just the Bible. But if you imagine seeing a bush that's actually on fire, but yet it's not burning up, it's the longest bonfire of your life, it would be pretty freaky. You'd be like, what the heck is happening here? And so Moses turns his attention to this bush, and God calls out to him. And this is where we pick up. Exodus 3, chapter 7. Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites have now come to me. I have also seen how Egyptians oppress them. So come, I will send you, Moses, to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Moses is being talked to by God, and he's been given a call. Now, I don't know about you all, but sometimes I wake up in the morning and I say, God, if you would just talk to me out of some ferns or something and tell me what to do, my day would be a lot easier. If I didn't have to figure this out for myself. What am I supposed to do, God? How am I supposed to help these people? How am I supposed to deal with whatever it is in front of me, whether it's classes, whether it's work, whether it's meetings? Sometimes I just wish God would just show up and tell me exactly what to do. But if I'm a little bit more honest, I probably would have a hard time if God shows up and tells me exactly what to do. Because oftentimes, if you're like me, if God told you what you were called to do, you'd probably instantly have some other things on your mind. You probably doubt that you had the ability to do what God was calling you to do. Or maybe you would think that you didn't have the experience necessary. Or maybe you think that it's just such a scary concept that I don't really want to deal with it. Right? I have a hard time inviting my friends to come to worship on Sunday nights or the coffee house, let alone going and doing something crazy like going and talking to the ruler of the land. Moses had to do. Whatever it is that we're called to do, whether it's something that we think is really insignificant or something that seems globally important, it matters. And it's hard because we don't often like to be uncomfortable. You would think that God talking to us in a burning bush would be great, but as we read in the story, Moses has some issues with it. He has a lack of confidence. He has a fear, and he has a misunderstanding of his identity. We actually see in verse 11, right after this, so that we just read through verse 10, verse 11, Moses' first response to this bush that is burning, calling him, saying, hey, you're going to be the person who sets my people free. You're going to save hundreds, if not thousands of people from oppression. Moses says, God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Who am I, right? This very first question as we go in, right? Why me? Why in the world would you choose me of all the people in this room or all the people in the world to go and do this task? Moses is struggling with this question. Hold up, I've spent 40 years in the wilderness completely trying to get away from my past. Why the heck would you want me to go back into this place? Why would you want me to go back into this triggering or maybe even dangerous situation? Why would you want me to have to face this fear, this problem? God, why me? Right? Of course, God doesn't just say, oh, you're right, I must have made a mistake, don't worry about it, you keep hanging out with the sheep, I'll get somebody else. He presses on him. He's like, I'm going to be with you, right? You have nothing to worry about. Like, I am the one sending you, I believe in you, you have this. And Moses responds in verse 13, but Moses said to God, okay, you're going to be with me, that's great, but if I come to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? Now for us, that might be like a really strange question, but we have to kind of put this into the context of the time, right? Moses is essentially asking the question of like what authority am I going to be doing this by? Like, why is it that you're sending me this place, and who are you to be sending me? He's basically saying like, hey, I'm going to show up and no one's going to respect me, right? No one values me as a person. Like, why would they do what I say? And I don't know about a lot of you, but especially in our world today, young people, and believe it or not, I'm still considered young to some people, have an issue with feeling like we matter. Like, why would this older person listen to me? Why does my voice matter in the situation? Like, no one respects me. People think, oh, when I get older, then I'll understand why they're doing things the way they are. See, Moses is in this situation. He's like, hey, you're sending me God, but like, no one's going to respect me. They're not going to listen to me. So like, who are you? Why do you get to tell me what to do? And like, how is this even going to work out? And this is where God gives one of the most famous lines in the entire Bible. Tell them, I am who I am. Yahweh. Right? And the cool thing about Hebrew language, which when I got my master's in divinity, I spent a lot of time in Hebrew because I found it super interesting and really enjoyable in reading the Bible. But this phrase, Yahweh, I am who I am, is both in the present and in the future context, or the ongoing context. So you can translate it, I am who I am, or I will be who I will be, or I am who I will be. God gives the name, I am everything, here, now, and forever. I am the God who has made it all. I am the God who is with you, and I will prove to you time and time again who I am, if you just trust me. Like Abraham and Isaac and Jacob had to trust me. I will be for you who I was with them. The faithful one, the trustworthy one, the one who actually calls you into something bigger and better in your life than you could even imagine it being. But he's dealing with this question, who are you? And some of you in this room, maybe you don't have a strong faith, or maybe you don't consider yourself a Christian. And that's totally okay. We're super glad you're here. We want you to be a part of this community. And maybe you're asking that question, like, God, who are you? Right? I don't even know if I believe in you. You're calling me to go into this life and to do something, but how can I actually trust you? And my bet and my hope is that if you stick with it and you continue to dive into the Bible, that God will meet you in that question. And God will give you that answer that God gave me and gave many other people in this room of who God is. That God is the one who loves you, who's with you, who will go before you, who will call you into something that's worth living for. So that at the end of the day, you can be happy with who you are and who you are becoming. God is the one who gives purpose, the one who gives calling. And that is exactly what he tells Moses. I am who I am. If you trust me, I will show you who I am. I will show you how good I am. And the sign of it will be that once you have succeeded and gotten people out of Egypt, you will come back to this mountain and you will worship me. God essentially puts a challenge to him and says, hey, trust me. If you do, I promise you, you will be back in this place and everything will be different. And you will see exactly the kind of God that I am. That I am faithful and trustworthy. But even after this, Moses is still having a real hard time with the concept. It's okay. I already tried to figure out why me. Like, I don't believe that my experiences or anything that I've done is deserving of this. Even though we're looking at the story, right? Moses is a Hebrew, raised by the Egyptians, taught by the Egyptians. He knows everything about their culture, about their life. He's the perfect person to go and speak on God's behalf. But he doubts himself. He doesn't see it. He only sees his failures and his mistakes. He doesn't see the possibility or the potential that God sees, that God gave him. So then he goes into the question, who are you? Right? Who are you, God? Like, how can I actually trust you? And God's answer maybe is one that doesn't sit super well with some of you in the room. Because God says, hey, put me to the test and I'll prove it. You trust me, do what I say, and I promise you, I'll be with you and it will work. That's a crazy concept. He says to Moses, go, take these people, and when you come back to this land, you will worship on this mountain, and that will prove to you that I was true and I am faithful. But Moses continues, he says, in chapter 4, Moses answers him, but suppose they do not believe me or listen to me, but they say, the Lord did not appear to you. This goes into this next question that we have, right? What if it doesn't go well? I don't know about all of you, but many times in my life, especially when I was younger, if something didn't go well in the first few minutes or few days, I was pretty quick to hop off that train. I did not like the concept that something wouldn't end exactly the way I wanted to. I don't know how many times I withdrew from classes in college, but I will tell you it took me like 7 years to graduate with my undergrad. Everything else I figured out. But what do you do if the plan you have, if the life you're living into, if the decision you made doesn't go well? Does that mean it's automatically a failure? Does that mean that you're a failure? Does it mean that you've made a mistake and you have to completely change everything and hop off that bucket? I don't think it does. See, Moses here says to God, suppose I go there, I tell them who you are, that you're going to be with us, and I believe in you and I'm going to trust in you, but they don't believe me and they tell me that I'm a liar. What happens if things don't go perfectly to plan? And this may be one of the most important questions we have to ask ourselves. Because you all are in college, you're here, you've made a choice for a major, many of you. If you're undecided, that's okay, you have time, I promise. But you've made a choice, you're living into it, you're like, hey, was coming to you on the right decision? Is this major really the major I should do? Like, what happens if I don't get an A in this class? Does that mean like I am no longer worthy? I know that happens to many of you, and it happened to me. But I'm here to tell you that those things do not define who you are. If things don't go well, it is not a reflection on your identity. It is not a decree against who you are as a person. Sometimes life just doesn't go well. We can't control how other people respond. You can't control how a professor will grade your paper that you worked endlessly over. You can't control how your roommate will act if you ask them to do a favor to clean up after themselves. You can't control what people do or what happens outside of yourself. But what you do have control over is how you respond to the adversity you face in life. When things don't go well, are you going to be the kind of person who just gives up because you're afraid of what will happen if you try more? Or are you going to be the person who says, you know what, I think this is the right thing. I know that this is where I need to be. I feel like this is what God's calling me to, and it's not going well, and I'm starting to have doubts, but I'm going to stick with it. That is a hard decision to make. More importantly, you have to figure out, is this really the right choice of action to go on? And sometimes the easy scapegoat is just to say no and wipe our hands clean. But what really builds our character is if we truly believe that we're doing the right thing, we're on the right path, but things are not going well. How will we face it? How do we go with it? In this situation in the Bible, Moses says this to God, what happens if they don't believe me? And God gives him things to show. He says, hey, take this staff, hold it up, and I'm going to do a miraculous work, and they're going to see that I am with you. Right? And he has this ability, using the staff, to turn it into a serpent. And then later on in the story, the same staff that Moses has been given by God is the one that he uses to turn the river Nile into blood and to do some of these crazy miracles that we read in the story. Right? Most of you probably do not have a staff that God has blessed for you to turn into a snake whenever you want to prove that God is with you. But you do have experiences in your life, relationships and family members and friends. You have things that have made you uniquely who you are that show or should be able to show you that you're exactly who you need to be and where you're going. Moses didn't see that being a Hebrew child who was raised by Pharaoh would make him the perfect person to go to Egypt and to talk on behalf of the Hebrew people. Most of us reading that scripture or that Bible passage would be like, well, obviously you're the only person who's in both these worlds and knows it. But he couldn't see it for himself. And for some of us in this room, including myself, maybe we have to look in the mirror and ask God, like, hey, what have you made me uniquely for? What are the things, what are the groups, the people, the relationships, the experiences that I've had that make me the right person for what I want to do? And I bet you if you take some time, that you'll start to see all of the unique ways that God has made you, that God has given you the skills, the abilities that you will still need to grow and learn and build upon. But the reasons why God is saying, hey, this is the calling for you. So even after God's given him the staff, he says all these things, and I'm going to be with you, just go on it. Moses still, after 3 different excuses, talking to a bush, by the way, right? He's talking to a flaming bush and arguing with it like, hey, I'm not sure about any of this. He says to God one time, verse 10, but Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Moses essentially says, yeah, I cannot talk to a group of people. Now, I don't know how many of you have already had your first speech class or had to give a presentation, but according to most studies, the number one fear in America is public speaking. Obviously, I don't have that fear, so I can't fully relate, but I understand it's a real thing. Because if you ever see me on a ladder, you'll see me crying like a baby internally, because I'm trying to be tough on the outside, right? Because our fears are real things. Moses turns to God and says, I cannot speak to people on that super end of a scale. Listen, God, and some people even say that Moses had a little bit of a stuttering problem, of a slur in his words. And so Moses is saying, God, hey, I don't have this ability to do this. Like, people they're gonna hear me talk, they're gonna laugh. I don't know how to use the big words. I don't have the right things to say, I can't convince people the same way that others can. I'm not an incredible orator. And often, for many of us, we have excuses the exact same way. Maybe it's not about public speaking, but we come up with all these reasons. Hey, God, I don't have that experience, right? I haven't had an internship, or I don't have the training to do that. Or God, who am I, God, to go and talk to my friend who just got broken up with, I've never even been in a relationship. Or who am I to go talk to them? I'm in a great relationship. So often in life, we put ourselves in these but I statements. Hey, God, I can't do that. I'm not good at speaking. I'm not good at this. I don't have what it takes. Moses begins going through these lists of excuses and telling him, hey, I can't do it. And what's interesting about this one versus all the others so far, in all of the other situations, God has said, hey, get over it. I'm with you. You can do it. Stop doubting yourself. On this one, God actually says to Moses, hey, you have that issue, that weakness. Maybe it's something you truly can't get over. I'm going to let your brother Aaron go with you, and he will be your mouthpiece. Sometimes in life, we truly do have real issues, real excuses, real reasons why certain things aren't great. But God, in his wisdom, has given us an out. And that is one another. Community. In the ways that I am weak, other people are strong. In the ways that others are weak, maybe I am strong, and together we can actually achieve the calling and the purpose that God has for us. This is very against often what we hear, especially in American culture, Western culture, and even in a lot of churches, and especially in college. Do it all yourself. You're in it alone. You have to study hard, do everything on your own, get your great grades so that you can beat everyone else out and be what you want to be. The Bible has a different story. The Bible says, do everything you can, work as hard as you can, be who you need to be, but also build community. In the moments and the issues you are weak, don't try to pretend like you're not. Call in people to help. Build a team. Study in groups. Figure out ways that work for you. And by using one another, not only do you make your goal able to be accomplished, but you also make life far more fun and worth living. Because you build relationships, you build community. So even after this, he's gone through his list of why he can't, and God says, hey, I'm going to give you your brother Aaron. He's going to be with you. No whatever excuse you have, you two will be able to do it because I am with you. You have the signs. You have the reason why you should trust me. And Moses finally says in verse 13, oh my Lord, please send someone else. The bottom of the barrel. He's gone through all of his excuses. He's trying to figure it out, and God is not budging. So Moses says, God, please just choose anyone but me. I don't want to do this. And sometimes in life, we get to those breaking points. When we've been on a path, we've been going through something. Maybe some of you have already experienced that in some ways. Maybe some of you have had to change majors, or you've had some real crazy situations happen in your family, in your life, that have made you contemplate and rethink what you want to do. But we get to these breaking points sometimes. And we say, God, just choose anyone else. I'm done with this. I don't want to do it. No matter what you tell me, no matter how much you're going to be with me, I just can't do this. The core of that question, God, please send someone else, in my belief, is a misunderstanding of your identity. And I'll say this for myself, for the many years that I struggled to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do, and telling people back when I used to play football and all the routes and going through what I would do with my life, get to this place like, God, just send someone else. I have a plan for my life. I want to live it a certain way. I want to do certain things. And slowly but surely, each of those doors that I thought I would live into closed. And I found myself in the darkness, wondering what to do. At the core of the question, God, please send someone else, or would you send someone else, is a disbelief in ourselves. It's a fear. Hey, God, I can't control what's going to happen if we go on that route, so I don't like it. Hey, God, I don't have what it takes, so you really need to send somebody else. Hey, God, James would be so much better at that than I would. Why can't you just tell him to do it? God, I already have my own plan and what I want to do. Why can't I just do that? And the crazy thing for all of us in this room is that God does let you choose to do what you want sometimes. the sad thing is, often, if we truly have a calling that God has put in front of us, a person to be, a thing to accomplish, a group to be a part of, if we reject that and step away from that, we miss out on some beautiful moments in life that could be. I know that in my life, a lot of things, missed opportunities that I had from some of my own stubbornness. But I'm incredibly proud and excited about who I am now and where I will be. And the good news for you is no matter how many opportunities you miss or how life turns out, you will always have an opportunity from God to continue on a path that leads to life. Whether that's here in college, whether that's after, whether it's after you start a family, or maybe it's one of those times when everything's falling apart and you have nowhere else to turn like it was for me. Right, those of you who don't know my story, I played football at UF, doing my things. I thought that was going to be my life path, and then I find myself in a wheelchair for a year after having ankle surgery, not able to do anything. Everything I thought I would do fell apart. And I was sitting there like, God, just send someone else. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to seminary. I don't want to be a pastor. I don't want anything to do with any of this. But slowly but surely over time, as I continued to think about who I was and what do I want to live for, why should I even wake up every morning dealing with depression and hardships, I began to ask this question, God, like, if you're going to use me, then use me. That breaking point, we get to the place we either say, God, send someone else, or God, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how I can do this. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm willing for you to use me. Now, I hope that you all don't have to get to the same breaking point that I had to get to in my life. I hope that life is a lot happier and better all the time. But I can promise you that no matter what path you choose, life will be hard. Because all of these excuses that Moses gave are excuses that we have to deal with. God, why me? Why should I go on these paths? God, who are you? Are you really with me, God? Do you really love me? Is this really the path I should be on? God, what happens if things don't go well? Like, is that automatically a sign that I need to quit or do something different? And Lord, I have this list of excuses of why I can't be that person. Why I can't go and do these things. Why, whatever it is, whether that's as simple as just making a new friend and being there for them in a hard time, or whether that's as crazy as being the person that God calls to go and talk to foreign leaders. All of it is significant. And each and every one of you has an opportunity to live into the life that God has put before you. And I don't know what that life is, because that's the beauty of it. It is part of the journey that God is offering before you. So the question I have for all of us is, as you're going through this semester, as you're taking the classes, as you're trying to figure out who you are, who your friends are, what experiences you want to have, what groups you want to be a part of, take some time to wrestle with the question of, who am I? God, what are you calling me into? Maybe some of you have a plan for your life already, and that's awesome. I'll pray that works out and that God is with you in those things. But maybe some of you have no idea, and that's okay too. Wherever you are on your journey, begin to ask the question, God, who have you made me? What are the experiences that I've gone through? What are the skills that I have that are going to allow me to be the person you need me to be? And then because of who I am, God, what are you calling me into? And one way you can do this is to wrestle with all of these questions we talked to. What are all of the reasons you have for why God can't or shouldn't use you? Maybe some of you here have an issue with confidence. Maybe some of you don't really think that you're all that special. Maybe you don't think you have the skills, or maybe you're competing against someone else and you're looking at their life. You know, how often we can just open up Instagram, right? And look at the highlights of someone else's life and be like, wow, their life is so much better than mine. Right? Or they're better looking than I am, they have more followers. All this, guys, crap, to be honest, right? Because the reality is, every single one of us is struggling in some way, shape, or form. We're trying to figure out who we are, what we're doing. Comparing the highlights of someone else's life to the hardships of your life is never going to go well. But God has created you uniquely and beautifully and powerfully in different ways than anyone else in this room. You have the ability to think, to see, to perceive things that other people can't. Or maybe they don't in exactly the same way. Maybe it's something really small, a musical skill, of ability at math or science, whatever it is that you are leaning into. Don't downplay who you are. Don't allow all of these excuses, all of these lists of but I can't hold you back. Instead, try this semester to live in to the power of who God's made you. And begin asking that question, God, how have you given me these unique differences, these abilities to be this person? And God, what should I do with them? And it may take some time. Maybe some of you will pray that prayer and God will answer you instantly and you'll feel on fire and you'll dive into it, and that's great. Or maybe you'll be like I was, having to sit for many years struggling and wrestling until God had to knock you over the head with it. Wherever you are, it's okay. No journey is better than the other. But my promise to you is the same promise that God gives to Moses. God is who God is. And God is who God will be. And if you take that step of faith, if you begin to not downplay yourself, to reject all of the reasons why you can't do something, and instead lean into the reasons why you can, and, as Moses had to with Aaron, the other people around you who can help you with the things you can't do. If you lean into those reasons, into those relationships, I bet you God will show up and show you exactly who God is. Let's pray. God, we thank you for the gift of this day. The fact that every breath we breathe, God, is a new opportunity, a new moment to live into life. God, sometimes it's so hard to see where we are going, what we're doing, or why we should even care about it. God, my prayer is that as we continue to dwell on the life of Moses, on the fact that, God, you had created him, he had experiences and skills necessary to be the person to bring the people out of Egypt, God, he still denied himself. He still gave all these reasons, these excuses why he couldn't do it. God, I ask you to expose to us all of the excuses we're using to hold ourselves back, those lies that we believe. God, help us to reject the things that we see about ourselves, the things we don't like, the excuses that we have, the fears, the confidence issues that we may possess. And God, instead, help us to live into the life, into the power that you've given us. Maybe we have no idea any of that, and we have to start right at the very basics. God, I just ask that you meet us wherever we are. As we turn ourselves to you, we give you a little bit of trust that you will show us a path to a life worth living, a purpose worth fulfilling, an identity that is unshakable and true, rooted in you. It's in your name we pray, Jesus. Amen. So guys, during this next song, I'm going to call the band up. We're going to just have this one song and some time for prayer. In the back corner of that table, right in front of where Caleb is sitting, there are cards. They're index cards, and there's, I think, 3 different ones. General prayer requests just for our leadership group, and then prayer requests that are just for me. If you have something that's on your heart, if there's something going on in your life or in someone's life you care about, fill out one of those cards and just fold it up and leave it there, and I'll pick those up and be praying about them every day during the week. So just use this time. Ask yourself the questions and see if God will meet you in this case. here before, you know what's coming, but if you haven't, one of the things that makes Wesley a little bit different is that I deeply and truly believe that God does not just reside in my brain and in the Bible, but that God also loves to be in community with us, where two or three are gathered. And so we're going to spend about 10 minutes circling up into groups, and we have a few questions, which are too small for my eyes because I'm old, but hopefully you can see them. If you can't, take a photo. We'll go ahead and break into 4 groups, and all you do is just like circle up with a group over here, we'll do a group here, a group here, a group back, and then if like those 8 want to go around the table over there, you can go with them, and then we'll break up, give you about 10, 12 minutes, talk about it. If you do not feel comfortable sharing, just hide behind your mask with nice eyes, it'll be fine. No one will make you talk. But if you want to share, we'd love to hear what you have to say. So, go ahead and get in groups. Sarah, come over here. Easy, John, you got on that side. And then we can take those. And there we go. Stay here if you want, or one group can go over there. It's up to you. Sophia, you're there. I can't hear you exactly. This is your people. Look how beautiful they are. We love them. is that we have the 4 different small groups that are going on. They're going to be in the email. They're also on this QR code if you want to scan it. We're going to be offering a Bible study through the book of Galatians. We're going to be doing a book study with Adam Hamilton's book, Making Sense of the Bible. We'll buy the book for you. But it's a pretty great book. It's all about understanding different ways, kind of in layman's terms, but theological terms, about dealing with the Bible, how to read it, how to go through it. It's a great book that Cam did back when he was a member of Wesley, and now as our associate director is going to be helping us go through. And then we have 2 other groups that are more kind of like how is it with your soul groups, where we're meeting together, talking about life, and just spending some time like building each other up, praying, doing some of that communal beings. So if any of those interest you, go ahead and scan the QR code, mark off. You can mark off all of them, just one of them, doesn't matter. Once we have it marked up, sometime during this week, I'm going to send out an email to everyone who signed up for them, and send a doodle poll, and then we'll figure out times that work best for people's schedules, okay? So that's small groups. Other than that, this Thursday, we have Coffee House, as always. And this week, we have a band whose name I totally remember, Wanted Republic. I knew it. Don't tell them, I forgot. But Wanted Republic, which has some of our Coffee House regulars coming out performing, should be really awesome. So if you come out Thursday night, Coffee House, 8 p.m., we'd love to see you there. Invite a friend. It's always a good time. He does a great job. And there's an open mic afterwards. Thank you, James. If you have any of your own stuff and you want to be a part of it, we'd love to have you come out and do that. Other than that, yes, absolutely.
Okay, I have a quick announcement. So after this, like at 7:30, so literally right after dinner, there is an acapella welcome concert for all of the acapella groups on campus. I'm the artistic director of Miss Cadence, and Phoenix and Tufan will also be there. Tufan and Miss Cadence are performing. We're doing like little 15-minute sets. Shouldn't be more than an hour, but if you're interested in singing or you just want to hear some more live music, acapella is the best, and I'd love for you all to come check it out, ask questions. You can sign up for auditions. And yeah, if you have any other questions, you guys all know me, so you can come talk to me or any of the other members. But that'll be 7:30 in this room. So if you don't want to go home and study, who cares about that? Have some dinner, listen to some acapella. It's great. Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, so even if you just want to hang out and listen to some awesome music, I would encourage you to hang out and do that. And that leads us to our very last thing, which is dinner. So today we have Taco Rico Taco Bar, which is delicious if you've never had it before. And so I'm gonna have Cam move that table out a little bit. Cam and I will hop behind there with some gloves, and you can come through and get whatever you want. We have taco stuff. My brain's working really well. Yeah, taco stuff. All right. So that is all. Thank you all for coming. And of course, next week on Sunday we'll be back here at 5 o'clock to be going through the story of David. So there's a bunch of different things going on there that I think will be great. So as we come out, I'm going to ask Avery to pray for our food.
Okay, yes. As I said, I guess I said all right, dear God, thank you all so much for having us here in this room and for the lovely AC. I know that relieved a lot of us today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to all be together and to worship and listen to great music and great words by Jess. And please bless this food that we're about to eat and let us all have a great second week of classes. Amen.
Amen. All right, so